Cool. And I guess welcome everyone. Just going around the room. And we actually have like the real Hollywood here, Tim. Like Holly. Hi, Holly.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. Like
I feel
talking
like
about
it's like I feel like there's an Animaniacs joke here about like no relation.
like Holly's like the real artist. So
Yeah.
yeah. You should like base Hollywood out of her.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You know what? Like that's actually a really good thing. Like there's been so many concerns about AI stealing art from legitimate artists, and I think there's so many cool projects like Titles, for instance, that like find ways to deal with provenance in Web3 for those tokenized artistic models, and like to have someone build something specifically to just reimagine like cinema. I think that's cool. I think it's cool that we can try to embrace both sides and not be afraid of Web3 or AI. I think I hope that that's what this group's all about, man.
Yeah, yeah. And like I also get that question a lot when I talk about AI, like what happens with the humans in the loop, right? But I
Yeah.
think as long as we include the artists in the discussions, right? Like we'll get a little bit of the way there to not
Yeah.
make it like not disenfranchising them. Cool. Okay, so I guess we can get started. So welcome everyone again to NPC Friday. So this is the second one that we're holding. The first one where we had Niraj Zomglinks here present about the first MCP game. Oops, I think we still have a bit of an echo. Like, where's that coming from? Yeah, but continuing on, like as I was saying, the first NPC Friday was with Niraj, where he presented the first MCP game, like which is super cool, and now we're pushing it forward now with talking a bit more about autonomous virtual beings or AVPs, and we're glad to have Tim join us here. They just recently released Hollywood, which is the first AI cinematic director on virtuals, and so we'd love to hear more about that. And yeah, but before then, I did want to start with some slides on what's new with vibe coding. Uh, and also like to talk a little bit about NPC Friday, right? NPC Friday is sort of a spin-off of NPC Day, which we have been doing around the world with in New York, Denver, Istanbul, and London. And it was pioneered by the folks from Future Primitive. But the main thing is the the main principles are still the same. We want to really focus more around the conversations and not around the shilling. So it's making friends, sharing our knowledge, and of course having fun. With us being in games, I think that's the most important thing. And yeah, so we're right into it. So what's new in vibe coding? I saw this tweet on vibe coding, which is pretty funny, and wanted to share that with all of you guys. Oh, just press G to fly, Niraj. Um, and yeah, so I have a few slides to show on what's been new in vibe coding that I've seen. Of course, like every day, there's something new in vibe coding, and one thing that like a few new things just came out that I wasn't able to add to the slides. Oh,
Oh, sorry.
slides moving.
That's my bad. Hold on.
Put that back again, Phil.
My
It
bad.
happened by accident. It happened to me by accident as well because it's easy to.
I should turn off that. But yeah, but just moving forward again, like GPT 4.1 just came out, right? And now I've been testing it out with vibe coding. It's doing pretty well, and of course it's free with Windsurf, so I've been more easily vibe coding and not having to think about the costs as I type out my prompts. So I encourage everyone to check it out. There's news that maybe Windsurf will be acquired by ChatGPT, so something to think of when you're building your workflows. The other one is OpenAI Codex. So I think this is an interesting, I guess, look at where AI tools will be going, right? So it's just on the terminal. And the example here is the presenter put out an image of photo booth and asked OpenAI Codex to make this app. And it made it immediately. So right, so it's multimodal and able to do things like this in one shot, like create some interesting filters. So I encourage everyone to take a look at that. People are forking it also now, and there are more models that are able to run on Codex. And from our end, we put out the Vibe tile set generator by Potnoodle Dev. So so the idea with Pot Noodle Dev is we want to be able to create games just by vibe coding, right? And really fun games that people will play around with, and also build tools that the Vibe Jam participants will be able to use. So this is one of the tools that we started out with. So I encourage everyone who needs this to also use it. And just a shout out to the two game jams that are running. One is the Game Dev JS Jam, and the and the Orange Vibe Jam that of course is happening, which is this in the space that we're all part of, right? So we have a new side quest. Anyone who's vibe coding a game will also be part of that. So I encourage everyone to check it out. All right, and with that out of the way, I'm really looking forward to have Tim talk to us a little bit more about Hollywood, which is, as I mentioned, the first AI cinematic director. It just came out in Virtuals in the Virtuals Genesis platform, which is the sort of like I would say a pre-sale platform where people can acquire the token, and it's doing pretty well. And congratulations, Tim, there. And I'm really looking forward to, I guess, jamming on autonomous virtual beings. And oh, Tim, by the way, if you wanted to present something, you could also do it similar to this, but happy to just jam around.
Yeah, let's jam, man. Let's just jam.
Yes.
So first, I'll just preface with like the usual, hey, nothing I say is investment advice. Do your own research, please. I want to tell you what I'm interested in, what I care about, and why I aligned scripted with it. So yeah, you'll see with virtuals has traditionally been up until today, yesterday technically, has been a pump fund style, and I shouldn't say pump fund because it was its own unique AI agent based token launcher. And what they did really well, and this is what was like so fascinating to me originally. And this was like October or September of last year when I first found out about their move into the new platform. It was that they had a framework for Luna where you could see what she was thinking. You could see the planning system underneath. You could see what was happening. And I love that because like I adopted multi-agent systems for AVB and for our stuff like a long time ago, even back when I was first talking with Yohei Nakajima, and you may know him now from the Pippin Project or from Untapped Capital. So I was just really excited about this new version that Virtuals created called Genesis, because Genesis, the idea was, can we make a fair launch platform, Virtuals asked themselves, based on the reputation and knowledge we've gathered about the Virtuals users themselves? And that's why you'll see that there are a bunch of Virgin points, right? The Virtuals Genesis points. Those were based on people who interacted with the Virtuals ecosystem and have already vetted themselves. So it really, I can't promise anything on behalf of Virtuals, but I would say, oh, good, that seems like a great method for limiting bots, limiting collusion, like actually like rewarding people for their interest. And so that was really cool. So I've had a long-standing relationship with the Virtuals team, and through me by proxy, the Hollywood team started talking with them about like what would a launch on Virtuals look like versus saying doing it on one of the other new platforms or like traditional pump fund. And I think Virtuals made an attractive enough case and offered such a unique marketing opportunity to Hollywood that not just on marketing, but also on the fair launchability of it, that team was wanting to move very quickly. And I'm very excited for the Hollywood team that they were able to pull together everything so quickly. I mean, like we're talking like very quickly. And that they were able to achieve the #1 spot on the release list. That's something special, everybody. I can't tell you how excited we were, even here at Scripted, to know that, oh, something that we helped build, we contributed tech to, that we have an API endpoint for, like this is like the #1 test. This is like the experiment. So that was the first motivation. And then like, let's talk about Hollywood for a second. So Hollywood is a really interesting, like decentralized collab group. I'm not in charge of it, that's for sure. What I offered the team was technical abilities from the AVB stack, an early preview actually of the autonomous virtual being stack, specifically around learning, memory, and also the ability to have like relationships for images. like being able to take the idea of a movie like Blade Runner and think of something that makes sense from a famous scene from it and reproduce that in a specific style. And the project kind of moved between various ideas over time. I mean, there like the main thing that I would say was really fun was just that between the project members like Bruce, who generated, and again, I'm just going to say this again, generated, I don't know how many pages of creative work, of the character personality, expectations, core memories. Like literally think of it like Inside Out, like a script for Inside Out, the movie. That's kind of like how detailed the work was for this agent. It wouldn't fit in a single JSON prompt, that's for sure. It wouldn't fit inside a context window in any meaningful way. It required our stack to really bring to life. And then the second part, and this was what I thought was really cool, is that Bruce generated hundreds, I think. Yeah, I've just got a stack of them of images, and we annotated them carefully. We tagged them. We worked out the descriptive logic, and we trained a model on Stable Diffusion specifically for Hollywood to have her own filter, to have her own way of looking at the world. I thought that was really cool because, anyone can take like someone else's art and try to make like a model that just imitates someone else. Bruce created something fundamentally new, something fundamentally like this is hers. This is her way of looking at the world. And then seeing the way that she can reimagine things through that network is so cool to me. And so on the legal side, like obviously scripted and AVB, like scripted retains all the rights to like the generation tech and like all that sort of stuff, but like the Hollywood project actually owns their own image model, their like own AI model for generating these things. Like that was one of the service products that we created for them. So the goal of Hollywood is that we're rolling out the testing integration now. You'll see her start doing cool things like very soon. The goal is that eventually you can just tag her in an X conversation and she can actually just like spin up an image that makes sense from a cinematic point. And then that image, we can route it through our video creation systems using the logic that Bruce helped us develop for like controlling camera movement and everything else, and turn that into a short film. And by short, I mean short. I mean like what you would expect out of the current routed products, like 5 to 10 seconds. But when you stack these things together, oh my God, guys, it becomes an experience. And we've only seen the beginnings of it. So that's why I'm so excited about it and why I like essentially did custom building into it. We're going to release a more public AVB stack for everybody. We're even releasing a builder tool called XP pretty soon for anyone the first test is anime waifus. So bear with me on that, but it's going to be cool. It's going to be pretty fun because why not, right? Let's experiment. Let's have fun with this. Like, let's make season 2 like actually like really fun to play with. Anyway, so I'll stop there.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. Like, I do want to open the space for questions from anyone, but maybe I would like to start. So one thing that's really interesting also, because I saw some of the demos that you presented with AVBs, right? Where you were like sort of doing something like a character creator, and you were giving them its own voice. And I wonder like how much of that technology goes into Hollywood, right? Like, is it mostly just 5 to 10-second clips, or are you making like these characters, like making their models, for example? Yeah, maybe you can talk a little bit more about that.
Great. Okay, so there is a roadmap for those kind of like amazing things down the road. I'll be straight up with you right now. It's more about the experience of understanding and creating those short clips. Just that's what we are now, right, with Hollywood. And I hope that things go really well and like that relationship deepens and that we have more time and attention to be able to build even more in. But keep in mind, Hollywood can be fairly permissionless, right? As far as like choosing these new things. So I will say we have a roadmap for that. We would love to provide that, and let's all cross our fingers and like really help Hollywood fly.
Yeah, because I was thinking like for AVBs, for example, one thing we could maybe do is create like avatars here in the Orange Web, right? And
Yes.
move around. So that's
Heck yeah.
really exciting. Yeah.
So, I actually had an amazing conversation with another traditional game founder in Web 2, who owns one of the larger, massively multiplayer online role playing games. Actually, I know two of them. It's funny. And they're two of my favorite games of all time. Not Ultima, even though I do love Ultima. And it was my first game. And he was pointing out that he has like an absurd amount of 3D user generated content in his game. And I won't say which one right now, but until we come to terms or something. But he pointed out that, hey, it's user generated, so the users own their stuff. But like, what if you could have AI agents that can literally walk around in this world and learn things, right? And that had sparked a real belief in me. And this is like for people who are like thinking about the AVB perspective of agents versus like traditional product. I want you to think of like, it's less about what people are always asking, what can AI do for Web3? What can AI do for games? And I'm like, no, what can Web3 do for AI? What can games do for AI? Because if we could walk around in a world like this with autonomous agents and interact with them better, and they can autonomously learn things about their environment and those experiences, well, guys, guess what? We are moving towards more useful AI for everybody. And the Web3 part helps lower the cost of that intelligence for everybody. We should all have access to this great, what would you call it? This inheritance of the human spirit. That's what AI should be, right? It shouldn't be like a job killer. It should be a common repository on the level of which, right? It should be something that we can all take from and give to. That's what AI should be. That's what Web3 is for, right? To democratize this, to decentralize this. And I think I love what you said about walking around in a world just like this one that we're in this vibe coding den, this wonderful 3D space with our little avatars. Because yeah, of course, it's literally on the AVB roadmap. I want to have 3D characters, and I know which games and which experiences would be good to do that with. So just on the AVB side, I will say our entire goal in this next, like we're doing a fundraising round right now. We just opened it up. We're going to release a centralized AVB stack that is partially like private proprietary API stuff where like we have cool secret sauce we don't want to give out, and a lot of it open source where people can mod it and do cool things, add skills, that sort of thing. And then the goal is we decentralize that stack over time onto a new kind of network that still works with Ethereum and BitTensor and all of our other friends. And that's called Inori. So if you ever hear me talk about like AVB or Inori, just understand that they're like a spectrum, with AVB at the start in a centralized way, moving towards a decentralized network for intelligence. That's what that's like the end goal of my company, right? So yeah, Hollywood is just like the first and one of the most interesting. So I'm very glad that we were able to provide some of these capabilities to that project.
Awesome. Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, just go on unmute. But if you're shy in doing so, you can put it on chat and I can ask it. And while we wait for questions, Tim, like some of the discussions here also have been around what would it look like if AI was doing stuff for games like Dungeons and Dragons? Because for the example, last week, like we had Niraj show an MCP game wherein the game was making UI on the fly, and you were like using the AI agent itself as sort of a rules master, right? So yeah, maybe you can talk to something about that.
You know, if you guys really want to blow your minds, okay, like 2 years ago, I think like before like GPT had taken off, right? But like before we like really got going, where we were still doing tons of stuff by hand with like LangChain and other tools, we thought the company, like Scripted, we thought we were just going to be building like AI game dev tools at first. That's what we thought we would do, right? So when you're talking about the MPC server building its world, I'm like, oh yeah, let's talk about this. We actually built a tool called Auto RPG, and we're kind of dusting that off right now. But if you go look on YouTube, you can see us literally have under the hood building a game level, because they each had their own little design specifications and their motivations, and they worked and fought each other to do it. You can go watch like it build levels. It's so cool. And I think we could use the same tech for like with MCP now, and we just want to expose that through the AVB stack now. Like we're just taking that stuff and branding it AVB. So like, yeah, heck yeah, let's figure out how to make D&D stuff at scale. And there's a guy, Parzival from the Project 89 project. He's super cool because he used to work on AI Dungeon, and yeah, I need to hire that dude. There's a lot of cool people in this place that we should roll into projects like that.
Yeah, can you like mention that again, Tim? Like, what's the AI RPG, the first one?
Okay, it's called Auto RPG. I'm sorry, it's a lame name. Like AUTO RPG. Just go find it on YouTube, and you'll be like, "Oh my God, Tim, are you kidding me?" It's literally RPG Maker. You know, the classic 2D Japanese video game making tool. And we took all the tiles, we hooked up, we like figured out what all of the relationships were, and we had some really cool agent tech back in the day. Like obviously it's improved, and it was literally some agents designing a little level for an RPG. And it had a backstory and it had motivation, and it kind of gave up on some things and tried different things. It's a really cool video.
Awesome. I think I found it. I'll post it on the screen. But
amazing.
Yeah. But Niraj, did you have a question, Niraj?
I had a question actually. I'm quite curious about how you created sort of like a coherent character out of scripts that like, you know, can blow through any context window. I'd love to.
Oh my God, yeah. So just understand that's like the whole reason my company was founded was like to defeat the context window, right? like when you think about context windows, and for the rest of the group, let me put this in context. Large language models are one way to express generative AI. It's one of several, right? We have lots of different ways of doing AI. And LLMs are really clever about doing one cool thing. You put in a bunch of text, and thanks to attention and transformers, it takes that text and it gives you a table of the most likely next words that would come after that text, right? That's literally what it does. That's it. And GPT, ChatGPT specifically, figured out a really cool trick. They figured, oh, if we don't choose the most likely word, if we make it a random chance based on the probability table of those top maybe 10 or 20 words, well, we take that word, we choose it, we append it to the original input, like, hey, my name is, and then it says Tim, and then it reinserts that entire set of new tokens, like the entire new thing with the new word at the end, and runs it again. And it gets a new word, and it pops it onto the back, and it runs it again. And that's literally how it auto-completes sentences. That's how GPT works. And the context window is like this division between like how many tokens it can actually deal with. So if you only have a few tokens at the front, you get lots of tokens that it can generate at the back, right? It's like a window. You're just sliding it. And for the architecture of AVB, from the get-go, it was actually based on some of the gaming principles that we had done in MMOs back in the early 2000s. So traditional AI techniques, not just LLMs, mixed with some of the stuff we discovered for Auto RPG, mixed with some cool new stuff. And I can talk about this in a second, but I don't want to overwhelm anybody. The shortest answer is an AVB is actually multiple agents. You can think of it a little bit like the movie Inside Out. I'm not kidding about that. They have several defined roles, and they compete over internal resources to get things done. They also have a very different memory architecture. The most important AVBs, the one that we're like kind of really working really hard on right now, they use several new kinds of AI tech based around diffusion. And you'll see other companies doing this now. You'll see Inception just launched a model that can do generative text with like a diffusion-based model. We use diffusion as the, how would you call this? The lingua franca, the common tongue between all the different things. So if you're thinking about like a Twitter post as a human, to an AI today, most people just scrape the text and throw it into an LLM and say, make me up something to respond to this. And that's why the bots that respond to your Twitter thread sound so lame, right? An AVB looks at that Twitter thread and it does a couple of things. One,
it grabs the text, it grabs the markup underneath, like the actual HTML, because you might need it. It grabs any media associated with it. It grabs it actually, we have a system called Streamwatch that I had a contractor build for us so we can actually like rip videos out. And it takes an actual screenshot of the Twitter post and what it looks like on the page. And all of that goes into like a diffusion model. Like it actually stores it as vector embeddings, but they're like diffused instead of like LLM based tokens. And I don't want to share too much more secret sauce on that, but like we have a really cool like knowledge system based on that. And I'm really excited. Even Hollywood doesn't even take advantage of most of that yet, but she will, and she'll sound more real over time because of that. Obviously, a lot of our stuff right now has just been, hey, let's make sure the image and video generation stuff works. That's where my heart has been, right? But
So
the
do
reason
you
I built that system that way was to conquer the context window, and I think we've got a good method for it.
do you apply diffusion over like different like pieces of the context? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
like I want you to think of like, okay, again, think of this as, and we're going to put out a little paper about this soon called multi-context data objects, McDOs. I like to call them Mickey D's in my head.
McDonald's, right?
I know. Literally, I think of it McDonald's when I made it up, and I was like, I have to keep it now. I hope they don't sue me. Anyway, a McDo is instead of like that Twitter post being like a piece of text, it's actually 5 different objects, and they all have vectorized token embeddings, right? And they're different ways of looking at the same thing. And it turns out like it's a really useful way of building relationships between different pieces of knowledge in a neural network. And in this case, I guess when a lot of us think of context windows, we're really just thinking of a Python script on a loop, looking through, like responding to things. That still exists. There's still a loop. There's still a heartbeat, but it's more like there's a queue of incoming knowledge, and is this worth paying attention to or not?
Right.
Should I forget about this? Those are actual decision-making processes in our system.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Is it available for people to play with the AVB stack already?
No, so that's why we did Hollywood. That's why we did Hollywood as the first big public demo of what it can do. We're the actual hosting system. We're building a hosting system for it right now so that we can actually have people run the agents themselves. And then for the actual underlying tech, we're going to split it up. Like I said, we're going to keep part of it proprietary because, guys, I think I don't want to overpitch or overpromise. I just think like we have some weird stuff that's like DeepSeek level disruptive, and I want to keep that under the belt. And then the public stuff, yeah, we're gonna have an open source repo for AVB where you can write specific skills for your AVBs, trade them on the open market if you want to make some money, and just host like the more limited capability ones. But we're gonna keep the special stuff to ourselves for now.
Cool. I look forward to seeing what it's capable of.
Yeah, guys. I mean, like, again, it just sounds like I'm overpromising. It's going to take more time. We have a really cool architecture. It is new. My goal is to make them. My goal is to decentralize their decision making so that we can have provably fair things in Web3. Like, it'd be awesome to have like prediction markets that didn't need centralized oracles or didn't have to trust New York Times or stuff like that. Like, I want that. I want that kind of decentralized decision-making system. And AVB is like where that begins.
Well, what are they competing for? Are they competing for like API credits, or are they competing for like weights? You know what I mean?
Okay, I'll give this. This makes sense. So it's funny because you can also look at if you want a good example of like resource allocation stuff, go look at the Pippin framework. I find Yohei's stuff really good on that. Our architecture is a little different. Time is valuable, right? There's only so much time in a distributed system or even in a centralized system. And there's a longer story here, and I'm going to try not to overshare that story about Ultima Online, and so I'm just going to go with this. Everything the agents do, the sub-agents, which, by the way,
the sub agents can be Eliza or Pippin or other things too. They can even be a Daydreams from Loaf. Like they actually all work together. It's just we have a coordination system for them. Their jobs are all different, and their requests for attention are different, so that they have point allocations essentially per second of what they can spend on, and they can get over those by changing the mood of the agent. For instance, if they manage to excite there's a little simulator for like basic, like it's not really neurochemicals, but like things like excitement and stuff or depression. Like if they can prove that they're having a good groundswell push, they get more credits to play with, right? But if they're just doing boring stuff, they post something on X and there's not a lot of engagement, that strategy gets like deprioritized. You see what I mean? Like it's a reactive and a system. The other part that's really important, and this is why it's all secret, not secret, but like special sauce, is that we do have, and we're not the first persons who did this. We're like putting a lot of this stuff together for the first time. A simulator. It simulates what the expected outcomes of various strategies would be. Like, oh, I'm going to post this on Twitter. Like, what should I expect? How many clicks should I expect? And based on that forecasting, you need to like decide whether to do something, whether to change it, or is the forecasting model right or wrong? And so it's continuously also like figuring out its own forecasting models for decisions. That's the really freaking cool part. Anyway, I'm gonna shut up because like I'm just gonna sound like I'm like making up sci-fi stuff. But this is Real Stack. We're really excited about it.
Have you ever read a book called Consciousness Explained by Dan Dennett?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, I have.
Really like the demonology that he talks about over there. Sorry.
Yeah, send a link to that in the chat, Raj. I'd love to read it.
It's a great book. Yeah.
Wow, yeah. Like I love that discussion. Like there's so many threads we can pull on, but maybe Tim, one thing that I also wanted to ask was about the decentralization part, because Holly is working on decentralized AI, and I guess with what you're building with Inori, right? Will it be an L1 on an EVM? Yeah, maybe chat a bit about that. Yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm okay. Well, I'm not going to pitch you. Here's what I'm going to do. I have believed since the beginning of decentralization that decentralization could solve a critical problem for me. And that was like actually making things fair, making things neutral, making things unstoppable, right? My first exposure to Bitcoin was month 5 of Bitcoin. I remember it clearly because I'm like a low digit Slashdot user, and the Bitcoin white paper got posted on Slashdot, and I jumped in and I mined and I got excited, and I was always like kind of a quiet person in the ecosystem, even back when it was on news groups. And I still remember like truly, I had a very like terrible thought one time of like, ooh, what if I faked like a way to break Bitcoin and it crashed the price and then I bought back in. This is like, like 20-something-year-old Tim thinking terrible thoughts. And I went through everything. I went through the entire code base, right? And I realized that it didn't matter if like some of the code was messed up. The actual consensus mechanism itself, as long as the network stayed above 50%, was solid. And it was so that was like the paradigm shift for me from like an early believer of oh, cool, decentralized cash. This is neat. Digital gold. Awesome. To, oh, whoa, this is fundamentally math. This is fundamentally like human investment of resources at such scale that it, like one bad actor can't stop it. And it was very exciting to me. So when Vitalik and Gavin and everyone were talking about Ethereum, I was like, oh my God, I'm not gonna miss out on that. And oddly enough, one of the Hollywood founders, Rahila, she actually was at Consensus at the time, running the first hackathon contest that I participated in back then. I did not win, by the way. I think like the guys who made the Tesla integration for Ethereum won, but it was such a cool idea to have these smart contracts. And then like we always knew that there was a huge problem because all the nodes in early Ethereum were doing all the work. They were just replicating it the same way Bitcoin does. And super inefficient, right? And I worked on the video game called Ultima Online that invented the word sharding, the thing that we were promised in Ethereum would come one day. Like, I actually worked on the game in the early 2000s that invented the term, that like put it into the lexicon, and it became adopted by database systems. So I was like, that's always been top of mind. So I was like, how would I build a sharding system that could handle work that Ethereum, Solana, and the others can't? That the L2s based on ZK rollups can't, that AI, because it is not deterministic, it is like literally like random sometimes, can't be fully secured or decentralized this way. And so like the answer to that question was literally me making a startup, pulling some people in, flying around the world, visiting Argentina, which was fun because I went and climbed a mountain with Feta at Lambda class and a bunch of people from ZK Sync and other friends from the Ethereum Foundation, and figuring out the math for this. And it was, oh, Tim, congratulations. You've invented the first decentralized fuzzy consensus protocol, the one that can actually handle work that AI cares about. And so I was like, sweet. What do I do now? And so I went to A6, like Andreessen Horowitz's research team, and they said, well, that's weird, but here, come to Crypto Startup Accelerator and let's figure this out with you. And they said, okay, good job. We figured it out. Go build this. And so that's what I'm doing now. And I realized it was, oh, this is how we make AI agents real in Web3. This is how we actually decentralize enough of their parts that one AI agent is actually many different little systems working together. The name of the AI agent is a label. The actual systems of the AI agent don't have to be one Python script running on an AWS container anymore. It can be many different little things coordinated by this network that I'm describing. So what I'm offering you guys, and anyone who wants to work on Inori, is we are in the research and development phase where we want to be in testnet in Q3. We want to have our stack decentralized into it by Q4, but we want other people to look over our protocol, look over the consensus mechanism designing, like get us in there, like help us out. We really would love to have even more people involved.
Yeah, drop links on like any stuff you want people to take a look at, Tim, and I'll share that as well. But
yep. There you go. I just dropped the main page. There's a good protocol document overview in there, and it's fairly accessible. By the way, the math for this protocol is, it doesn't exceed graph theory. It's pretty straightforward. And a lot of people look at it and are like, oh my God, yeah, that's weird. How come we never tried this before? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's go try this. That's what that document comes down to. Enjoy.
Awesome. Yeah. And you mentioned, like, I guess you started formulating this with folks from ZK, from the Ethereum Foundation.
All right, like I'll put it this way: like I came up with the crazy idea of how this would work, and then I was like, "Am I insane, or should we try this?" And that's why I went and literally like sat in Buenos Aires for like a week, meeting and greeting and getting to know people who were experts in consensus mechanism design and cared, or wanted to be partners, or wanted to figure out a relationship, or like just wanted to check the math. And like the result of that was, it was a really good trip. I had a lot of fun, and like the output was, I remember the night I sat in this high, like this apartment, like hotel kind of thing, pitching A16Z at like 2 a.m. on this whole thing based on what I had done in the previous week, like for the research side, right? Like doing the validation side. It was surreal to come out of that, and then like a couple of months later be essentially living in London for like 3 months with the team, like working on this. It was something else, man.
Man, yeah. Like I really like hearing you talk about this, Tim. Like whenever you talk about the future, I get so excited, and also.
Well, yeah. I'm good. I like to be a hype guy, but like let's also be realistic. Like there's a lot of unknowns. And like when you build a fundamentally new thing, the goal of Inori is to add value to Ethereum and Solana and the other networks, where like instead of them being bots, right, that are just like extracting value like MEVs, no, I want like actual economic rational actors that are autonomous, have their own wallets, and are literally creating so much payment and work history between them that they're actually making Ethereum valuable for what it's supposed to be. So rising tide, right? That's what I want.
Yeah.
So like when we talk about Inori as an L1, it is an L1 because it is a fundamentally different architecture. It's not an L2 of any other network. It is fundamentally its own thing. But it is meant to bridge to everything else. It is meant to add value to BitTensor. It is meant to be useful to Jensen. It is meant to coordinate resources between Web 2 and Web 3. That's what it's for. It's a grand vision, I know. But I hope with Hollywood's release, we're seeing like that first positive step of like, we can do cool things, guys. We can do cool things. And as she becomes too expensive for me to put on one AWS server, which will happen soon, suddenly I will be bridging her generation resources to Aether, like the Aether network, right? Because we have a good early deal with them for GPU compute, and then expanding outwards as needed. There's lots of stuff like that that I want to coordinate through Inori.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I had a quick question. So when you mention AI native protocols, I think a lot about how difficult it is to create communication between AI agents on the blockchain, right? And so when you just start looking at something like Arweave, the AO supercomputer, they have that, I think, and I think that's probably what you're working on also. I heard, I think, a Twitter, they were talking a little bit about using like maybe like centralized protocols like Kafka for that sort of thing for interaction between the AI agents. But is that what you're planning on doing?
Okay. So first off, I'll say that agent to agent communication or even agent to agent business is not necessarily what Inori is for, right? Inori is for decentralizing the judgment and decision making of AI processes in a fully decentralized way, right? So instead of relying on one network, one actor, you can say, actually, we have 3 agents that are doing the same work. They can't steal from each other, and they all can't figure out what each other said before they reveal the answers, right? I'm giving a simplified flow. For communication, I honestly have agreed with, I've always greatly agreed with Shaw at Eliza Labs about this, that agents can talk however they want. Like, we don't need agent specific protocols for communication as much, because an agent that wants to like send some crypto from one agent to another on X can just use BankerBot. They can just literally make a tweet. Like that's it. Like the infrastructure is already there. If they want to do it in a secure manner, lots of secure methods exist. There's some caveats though. I'll give you a good caveat that I actually have a friend working on, and that this will just sound totally insane. So just give me a second and I'll come back to it. Remind me Tim's crazy insane phone plan. All right, we'll come back to that. So Holly, the question about, is it like Arweave's system for communication of agents? No, fundamentally it's like a system for decentralizing the decisions itself. Like, how do you know that all actors operated on fair information without relying on like a human or a centralized oracle? That's the answer to the question of how do we decentralize oracles anyway? That's what I'm building. It's a little bit different than Chainlink, for instance. But if you visit the site,
I think. Yeah, like I think, is it Eliza's or one of them is kind of has printed their logs basically, right? And so you can actually, if people are concerned about whether or not there's a human in the loop, that they can, they're basically logging everything the agent is thinking and each interaction he's having on Twitter, right? So
several projects do that, like terminal projects do that. There's private terminals, there's public ones. Luna from Virtuals does that. That was one of her value adds from day one, besides having a cool VTuber rig, right? Was like you could actually see her planning system in action. And that planning system is a multi-agent planning system, right? It has a prioritizer, it has like a fetcher, it has all sorts of things in there to show you what's happening. And people, you can decentralize, you can go ahead and take those generated attestations like, hey, I did this, therefore I'm doing that. And you could absolutely secure that with a story protocol, for instance, right? You can do that. That's no problem. But what you're still doing though is you're still taking a centralized system and you're committing that to a decentralized ledger and saying, by the way, honest, guys, this is what she thought. I definitely myself didn't just get in there in a Python script and change something and make it so you couldn't see that. There's still an injection of trust in that process, right? And what I'm trying to do with Inori is allow people to remove trust completely so that an agent, like doing inference, could just run it like multiple times with different nodes on the network, and then we have a really cool, secure way to like prove that they were all close enough to each other to be useful, and it doesn't even need zero knowledge proofs, and that allows it to go really fast. It's actually the same speed that it takes to generate is the speed at which it works. That's the nice thing about it. So you don't need a roll up either. Yeah, I could go deeper into the architecture and stuff, but I guess the main thing to communicate is, oh, it actually allows us to have that, what you see in that terminal experience generated from like someone's server and then attested to. It actually just takes out the server part and lets the agent work from the decentralized context in the first place, so that you don't need trust. That's what's cool to me.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Like,
Can you,
I know
can
it's come. Oh, sorry.
I
Yeah,
just
yeah. Go ahead.
so are agents storing commitments to their output on chain? Is that how it works?
Okay, so first off, I'm just gonna say, guys, I did put a link in the chat, and there's a document to explain it, and the actual core protocol is very simple. It's actually it's kind of too dumb to work, but it does, and I love that. I love that things that are too dumb to work do, because proof of work is too dumb to work, but it does, right? Proof of stake is literally too dumb to work, but it does, and I love economic security. So this system, let's say that you have a piece of work. Let's say you're on Ethereum and you're like, I want to generate a new NFT image, and I don't know if it's gonna like I'm sorry, I'm gas based. I can't actually see or calculate if the image is correct itself. I can't. I have to rely on someone else to make the image ahead of time. And I'm like, no, use our system. And three nodes, each of them different, all take the parameters. They don't even know what the image is supposed to look like, right? They don't. This is what Inori's for. It's like, if you don't actually know what the answer is supposed to be, how do you still use it in decentralization? So this is what's great. And so they generate their images using the same kind of stuff, and then they, instead of sharing the work with each other, they each just do a commit, like a hash commit of the work to, yes, a decentralized ledger, and then only after the commits are shared do they reveal the work to each other. And that way, dispute point number one, no problem. Did someone lie? Good to know, because their stuff won't match up to their hash, right? And then, of course, they all like compare. A compares to B, B compares to C, C compares to A. And there's tons of different ways of measuring how close work is to someone else's work, right? Especially for imagery or text, even LLM output, you can still tokenize the output and compare how close they are to each other, even if they're different, right? LLMs always give slightly different responses. It doesn't matter. There's still a threshold of how close something is to each other, right? So instead of saying one of the nodes has to get it perfectly right, it's more like three of the nodes generally agree that they were pretty close to each other. That's what I'm giving you as a network. Mm-hmm. And then the smart contract, it doesn't have to understand the work that was made. It can just see, oh, all three nodes calculated a very similar threshold of error. They all seem to agree with each other. So I can pick any of these three results and update my pointer to it, and boom, I'm done. And that costs like nothing in gas, right? That's like super cheap on a traditional L1. So that's why it's exciting to me, because it like solves this problem of how do you use AI work or any other kind of work when you don't know what the answer was supposed to be. So you can't write a ZK circuit. You can't write like a math proof ahead of time for it. Yeah, and we solve it with decentralization. It actually only works because we're using decentralization, and I love that. So it's one of those things I think Satoshi would have been like, oh man, that's weird. Let's play with that.
Awesome. Like, I shared your blog, Tim, on
thank you.
PC, and I guess that could be like some good reading to.
I think it's a good reading for the first like 3 pages bore it gets boring. Like the first 3 pages are fun.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And I guess just being mindful of time, like
Yeah.
we have a few more, maybe one or two more questions, but I did have one, Tim, around just going back to AVBs a little bit, because I also am super interested in how we can kind of simulate how these virtual beings think, and I wonder like how deep you guys go into like how the human brain itself thinks, for example.
Okay.
Because I was reading this book called Determined,
Mm-hmm.
and just saying like how our impulses are like down to the biological level, like how we
Yeah.
think. And so I
Yeah.
wonder how closely you guys do that with the AVBs also.
Okay, I have strong thoughts on this, and it's you'll see this in the AVB stack when it's publicly released. One, I think that I'm deeply suspicious that I, Tim Cotten, am probably just a bunch of diffusion models running all at the same time with a couple of LLM stacks, and they're all different little agents, and the thing I call I, am an ephemeral construct running on top. Like I am the emergent phenomena. That's Tim's personal belief. It doesn't mean it's true. Second, I did not model AVB specifically on the human brain architecture, like with short-term retrieval of memory and long-term retrieval of memory or anything like that. But I think my stack is probably the closest to it. It just uses it. It's a more, I hate to say organic. The way the memory system works is that it literally does keep top of mind objects nearby. Like it costs less resources to fetch top of mind things than search the entire database. And then the database itself is not a traditional like relational database at all. And it's not even a traditional vector embedding database. It is like a weird mishmash of those things with the knowledge graph. And it can reprioritize itself over time. And what I mean by that is that forgetting is as important as learning. I feel like the biggest problem a lot of LLM-based agents have is that they know everything, and you're trying to force a character profile on top to make them fit some sort of guardrail so that they don't talk about quantum physics if they live in a fantasy world, or they don't talk about a male perspective on things if it's supposed to be presenting female. Like there's lots of things that you don't know as a human because you just haven't experienced it yet. LLMs are trained with the sum total of all human knowledge, so they tend to be omniscient, right? And we don't want that. We want the ability to learn, which means we do have to treat the LLMs as more like cognitive glue between other systems than as the actual rational actor itself. And I think that's the key difference, right? Like our architecture is built more like a human system of learning where you don't know everything, but if you want to check Wikipedia, you can. And then it just adds information to your local context. So think of it as every AVB starts out as a tiny, tiny little seed. It actually starts out as a really, really tiny custom neural network. It's super tiny. And over time, it expands its capabilities. That's literally what they are. We call them Fluct Lights because I love Sword Art Online, and I thought that was such a fun anime. So yes, that's the architecture.
Awesome. Yeah. And I remember you talking about the world seed as well. Just
Oh my
saying
God.
that anime also.
Yep. It's it's funny when the company first started with auto RPG and stuff, I thought, oh my God, we're gonna build World Seed from SAO. We're gonna make a whole thing where we can generate entire virtual VR MMOs one day. And I was like, well, probably too early for that. But gosh, we built a lot of cool AI agent tech. We should run with it. We should make this important. And I really feel that we have a unique opportunity amongst like people like ourselves in this group, in this chat right now. There's a unique opportunity for us to collaborate on new kinds of things. I really hope that I can enable that through AVB and Ninori. That's the whole goal. It's just like I want to build things that outlast me.
Hello.
That is the sense.
The drama has joined the chat.
Hello.
I can.
Who is that? Sorry.
Oh, that was Candy. I'm my community manager. Hi, Candy.
Hi, Candy. Oops, I can't see her.
I think she was talking about something else.
Okay.
It's okay.
All right, that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
like thank you, Tim. Like that was like such a great hour of just jamming on AI
Yeah.
and on everything
Yeah.
on decentralized networks.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm happy to, I guess, if anyone has no other questions, like we can end on that very inspiring note by Tim, and then we can just open the space for any.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, hey guys, thanks for having me on. You know I love hanging out with Paul. I love like actually doing all these cool things. This is amazing.
Nice. Yeah, we'll have like a few more. I hope you join the next few ones. Like
Oh,
I
for
know.
sure. And yeah, and don't worry, I love to contribute when I'm not even the guy pitching things or like talking about my stuff. I just like to ideate on these things, as you know. So like, yeah, let's go. And thank you for having me. Really, thank you. It was wonderful to talk about like Hollywood, the cool things that we did with creating the image model, AVB, Inori, all of it. But like again, if anyone is interested in like a radically different kind of consensus model and is like risky and interesting and like requires like real thought to like think about and is not just a clone of EVM or something, yeah, hit me in the DMs. I love talking about this stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Tim. All right. Thank you, everybody. So I'll just
Bye,
stay in this.
everyone. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, everyone.
And also, like to Tim, like